Radio 418.
What's up, beautiful people? This is John Montagna, and you're listening to Radio 418. Thank you so much for coming back to the podcast. This is my show where I talk to my fellow musicians about the life in music. And this is an archive episode. It's my interview from last year with Michael Goldwasser, producer, arranger, songwriter, guitarist, co-founder of Easy Star Records. It's one of the premier independent reggae record labels, and now a solo artist. He put out a solo album last year called Goldswagger. He jumped headfirst into the funk and R&B vibe, and it's absolutely killing. I suggest that you pick that album up. God, where do I even start? First of all, unannounced 3-week hiatus of the beginning of the school year. And my daughter started school again, and the stuff started piling on. And then she got sick, and she was home for about a week with a fever. After 10 days, we took her back into the doctor. Turned out it was pneumonia. That was 2 nights in the hospital. And now she's better. Everything's all right. But, you know, this is a one-man show here. If this, as my friend Jeff Gans has said many times, if this show was a Monkees song, it would be called A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit Me. So sometimes podcast production falls by the wayside, but we're working on it. Working on getting the workflow together. So last night I was on my gig at Arturo's with Eldad Zvulun on the piano, doing the duo jazz thing. Got home late. I said, okay, I will do the voiceover for the Michael Goldwasser archive interview tomorrow morning and then post it right away. And then I look at the news and another mass shooting, this time in Las Vegas at a music festival. And it seems like the reaction happens even faster. All of the, name calling and accusatory, how come the media isn't doing this? Where's the gun control laws about that? They have caught the shooter, and I guess they have eliminated him. And so now the rest of us are dealing with the aftermath. And I don't have anything profound to say about it. I apologize if it seems insensitive to say, hey, listen to my podcast in the midst of all this. But I also feel like it's our responsibility to keep going. I'm still very idealistic, as realistic as I try to be. I still believe in peace and love and music. Music is what I do. It's what I know. It's what I love. And, I just picked up the new Ringo Starr album, Give More Love. Some great songs on that thing. And say what you want about Ringo, but what you see is what you get with that guy. And he doesn't say or sing or write a word that he doesn't believe 1,000% with all his heart. So when he says peace and love, peace and love, peace and love, he means it. And he feels like that's his job, to spread the good vibes. And I feel like that's my job too, more than ever nowadays. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm, again, sorry if it comes off like insensitive or bad timing, but this is what we got to do, folks. Keep the love and peace burning with like 1,000 little fires. And hopefully we can do something with this world and have a better future for ourselves. I don't know. I don't have anything profound to say. I'm not going to say anything that anyone else has already said. But if you would like a break from the news cycle, and you're entitled to it, please give a listen to this interview with Michael Goldwasser from last year. I was first curious about Michael and Easy Star Records back when I was touring with Alan Parsons. And we used to use their reimagining of Dark Side of the Moon, right? Dub Side of the Moon. We used to use it as walk-in music on our gigs. So then I found out about this collective, the Easy Star All-Stars, right? And then I discovered Easy Star's Lonely Hearts Dub Band, which was the reggae reimagining of Sgt. Pepper. And I was just blown away by it. I mean, Sgt. Pepper and the real deal roots dub reggae. Two great tastes that go great together. This became my favorite thing ever. In fact, I had actually met Elena Canlas, who's the keyboardist in Easy Star All-Stars. She was working at B.B. King's, and we were doing some kind of a Beatles-themed show there. I forget what it was. But she was on the staff at B.B. King's. She goes, "Oh, you guys do a Beatles thing? Oh, the band that I'm in just did a Beatles thing." And she gives me a sticker for the Easy Star Lonely Hearts Dub Band. I was like, "Oh, all right, cool." And then I saw the CD in the store, and I snatched it up. It became my favorite thing ever. And I realized, oh, yeah, these are the people that do Dubside. Okay. So then one day I get a Facebook message from Michael Goldwasser. And he introduced him. "Hi, you don't know me. My name is Michael Goldwasser. I'm a producer. And my group did this thing called Dub Side of the Moon. And I know you work with Alan Parsons, and I'm trying to get in touch with him for a thing I'm doing. I apologize if this is forward, but do you think I could get in touch with him? Blah, blah, blah." I said, "I know exactly who you are, and I'm a fan of yours. I'll do my best to make the connection on the condition that you do my podcast." And he said, "Yeah, sounds good." And Mr. Parsons was down, and they hooked up. And then last year, I drove out to Michael's house in Long Island, and we had a great conversation about reggae, about Judaism, about the connection between reggae and Judaism and the music business and the scene in New York in the 90s that he came out of. And it was just a great, great conversation. And just a quick update on the Goldswagger project, which is his solo album. The album was released in the UK, did very well, got a lot of radio play, and it actually went to number 1 on the UK Soul Chart. Also got a lot of airplay in Japan, on the pop stations in Japan. And Felix Hernandez on WBGO in Newark has been playing the single "I Can't Wait" on his Rhythm Review radio show. And if it sounds like I'm reading that from an email that Michael sent me, I am. I said, "Yo, any updates since the album came out last year?" Because I'm reposting. In any case, he's a wonderful guy, and he's a tremendous artist, and I was really pleased to make this connection with him. So I'm going to skip the rest of the preamble and just jump right into this. This is Michael Goldwasser.
Radio 418.
You left me all alone, but I know someday you're coming home back to me. You know it's where you gotta be if you wanna feel alive completely. Can you see the mistakes that we made? We were too afraid to find out that love.
Did you ever used to be at Giant Studios on 14th Street?
I'm sure I was.
Because that was my home base, and this mic stand is actually from there. When they went out of business, they were selling everything, and I got it for $5, and it's such a piece of crap, but it's like part of my history, you know. So.
Do you find yourself hanging on to gear that any sane person would get rid of?
Yeah,
it's like,
definitely. But it's all good. That if I do get this gig writing for Anita Baker, I have to thank my Yamaha MT8X.
There you go.
There
you go. It's pretty out here.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't love. My wife and I, neither of us want to live here. Never want to stay. It's like.
When did you move here?
5 years ago, and we thought we were going to be here for like a couple of years.
Okay.
but it's just not that easy to.
What informed that decision?
Desperation. We were living in Israel, which was amazing, but yeah, I mean, we were living in Israel. I got an invitation to be a resident producer on a kibbutz recording studio, at a kibbutz recording studio.
Wow.
And it was really great. The business relationship didn't wind up working out the way that we had hoped, just because a kibbutz, I don't know if your listeners even know what a kibbutz is, but it's...
Why don't you explain it for those who don't?
Yeah, well, they started out as agricultural communities that were basically communist in the sense, or socialist, I would say, because communist has all those connotations of totalitarianism. These were real socialism, though, where everyone shared everything. I see. And everyone had to work an equal amount. Everyone got the same salary, the same kind of housing. It was really socialist. Okay. And
does it succeed?
It succeeded in the sense that when Israel first became a state, even before Israel became a state, this was where a lot of the major agricultural developments that wound up turning Israel into a place that has a lot of they turned it from a place of mostly swamps and deserts into a place where lots of agriculture can grow. And a lot of that was based on these communities. So the kibbutz started out as an agricultural community. Now, many of them adapted to now have, say, factories. They'll specialize in making some certain thing. And some of them have hotels on them, or, places where tourists can stay, and that's part of their industry. And many of them now are not socialist anymore, and are much more privatized. So the kibbutz... Are they
all over Israel, or is there one specific...
No, they're kind of all over the place. There's about 250 of them still. Okay. And the one that invited us was great, and it was very socialist still in a lot of ways, which... I, at the risk of alienating some of your listeners, I'm all for that. I think it works on a small scale, at least. Okay. And I'm a big believer in socialized medicine. I think every civilized country in the world has it, except here. So I think it says something. Right.
And it seems to work.
The healthcare was great there. Yeah. Anyway, this kibbutz had a recording studio, not as big as, a really super professional one, but one with some great equipment, great sound, great vibes. The problem was I came up with a way to make it into a bigger and better studio to hopefully attract people from all over Israel to record there, or even international artists. Okay. The people who ran the kibbutz, they saw no issue with putting aside, a couple million shekels to develop something for their avocado orchards, but they had never thought about the idea of investing in music before. So it was just too foreign for them.
And what was your vision as far as having them invest in music? When you said to them, you should build up your recording studio, what did you see?
There were two things. One was specifically the recording studio, which is, I came up with a budget. If they could have invested, the equivalent of maybe $100,000, they could have had a much higher quality studio that I then could be able to sell to clients and then bring people in from all over Israel. And it's cool too, because, the kibbutz is a very beautiful setting, and people could come there and actually stay there so they could record an album over the course of a couple of weeks, stay there, be in a very relaxed, peaceful place, which could then make the process of making music a lot more agreeable and interesting. So
what was their hesitation about it?
Well, they just didn't get it. These are people who dedicated their lives towards, specifically developing agriculture, and they also had a couple different industries on the kibbutz. But they just couldn't get their heads around investing in music, not knowing what the returns would be.
I see.
But that said,
you saw potential there, though.
I definitely saw potential.
There's an active music scene in Israel?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
I'm sorry if that sounds like a stupid question.
No. Why? People don't know about things they don't know. Okay. What's cool about in Israel is that here, most musicians, a lot of musicians are very motivated by trying to make a buck, and that informs their music. Right. In Israel, and probably a lot of the places in the world, it's so much harder to make a buck making music that it's actually better because people are just...
you have to really love it.
You have to really love it, and you're making it from the heart, and you're not thinking about making the money. Right. And to me, sometimes that leads to the best music. And there's also a really diverse music scene there. Pretty much every style of music is well represented.
I would imagine like a lot of the westernized stuff comes through, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. In today's world, anywhere you can get everything.
Right.
Reggae is huge there. So that's one of the reasons why I was invited to this particular kibbutz was because my reputation doing reggae, and I've produced reggae there before, and I've performed in Israel with East Star All Stars 4 times. I've performed there on my own as a DJ several times. So I'm somewhat of a known quantity there. And part of that is, a lot of that is due to the fact that of the reggae scene is so vibrant and that dub side of the moon is so well loved there.
Right.
So the reason we were talking about this, if I remember correctly, is you're saying, why do you live here? And so the situation with the kibbutz didn't work out the way we wanted it to. We could have stayed anyway. Okay. But my wife really missed her family, which I totally understand.
Sure. How long were you there?
Less than a year, 9 months.
Okay. But you saw after 9 months that this was not going to go the way you thought it should go.
Well, they told us. They told us at a certain point that we're not going to invest in your idea for the studio, but they invited us to stay there anyway, and we would just, pay rent, whatever. It would still be a great way to live. Okay. We had a great time there. It just we decided to leave. We came back to the States, and we didn't realize how hard it was going to be to find a place to afford to live and where we wanted to live.
What year was this?
This was 2010.
Oh, okay.
And so relatively recent. We were pretty much priced out of the 5 boroughs unless we wanted to, live in not the nicest parts. And we also, we wanted to live in a community where there would be other Israelis, because our daughter, she kind of grew up. She learned to talk in Israel, we wanted to keep her Hebrew up. Okay. And here in Woodmere, there are a lot of Israelis, and my kids go to a school with a lot of Israelis, and they, so that's why we live in Long Island right now. Okay. But who knows where we're going to live in the near future.
So it's safe to say that Judaism is a large part of your life.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay.
And again, I'm sorry if that sounds like an obvious, stupid thing to say.
Not at all. I mean, why should anyone assume anything about anyone, right?
I mean, but that's that was something that I didn't expect. Only knowing the Easy Star world, right? Did a little bit of research on you, and I found an interview that you had done where you had mentioned the connection between reggae and Judaism.
Yeah, that's big.
Elaborate on that a little bit for me. Where does that...
I'm going to assume that some of your listeners don't know much about either, right? So,
sure.
Reggae, a large part of the founding of reggae, at least, is I don't even know if you would technically call it a religion, but Rastafari, or people say Rastafarians, but, so the most famous of which is Bob Marley, right? Most people know. And so the Rastafari religion developed in Jamaica in the 30s. Okay. And it was very much informed by people who had come out of the church in Jamaica. Jamaica has many different branches of Christianity, but the church is a very big part of Jamaican life. Right. And for many reasons, but one of which is because of the legacy of slavery, and for people originally of African descent living in this hemisphere now, many Jamaican churches were very centered on the part of the Christian Bible that includes the Jewish Bible, okay, or which non-Jews call the Old Testament, but which Jews just call the Bible. And they focused on the stories of redemption from slavery and being brought out of Egypt into Israel, which is the story that Jews recite on Passover. Right. The founders of Rastafari took that story and they thought about an exodus from Babylon, which Babylon is also a concept from the Jewish Bible of basically the non-holy world. Okay. To go back to their Zion, which for Judaism is Israel, but to them they imagined Zion as Ethiopia. Okay. And the reasoning behind that
Because isn't Zion supposed to signify Jerusalem as well?
Well, yes. Yes. It definitely specifically signifies Jerusalem.
Okay.
But the founders of Rastafari, through reading Jewish scripture and the Christian idea that Jesus was the Messiah and that he was somehow from the line of King David from ancient Israel.
Okay.
They claimed that Haile Selassie, who was the emperor of Ethiopia from 1930 to 1974, I think, that he was descended from King David and that he was the Messiah. Basically, they revere Haile Selassie as God. And his name, before he was crowned emperor and he became Haile Selassie, his title or name was Ras Tafari. So that's why they're called Rastafarians.
Oh, okay.
So there's a big connection because so much of the story came from Judaism, and then also a lot of the iconography, the idea of Zion, the idea of Exodus. You know, Bob Marley made a pretty famous song and album called Exodus. The idea of the Lion of Judah, which is they call Haile Selassie the Lion of Judah. That's a Jewish concept as well. Judah was one of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
So there's so much iconography and ideology from Rastafari that came from Judaism. So when I was hearing reggae as a youth, a lot of it made sense to me because there are many Bob Marley songs that he's basically just taking the English translation of parts of the Jewish Bible.
Interesting.
Word for word.
Wow.
The sun shall not smite by day, nor the moon by night. From the song, I think it's on Rastaman Vibration.
Okay.
Anyway, that's from Psalm 137 from the Jewish Bible.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
And there are lots and lots of, not just Bob Marley songs, like Dennis Brown, one of his most famous songs, is called, Here I Come, and it's basically the 23rd Psalm from the Jewish Bible.
That's crazy.
My head is anointed,
right.
All that, that's straight out of my book,
Right.
So, but another reason reggae appealed to me was, part of being Jewish is seeking social justice. And, that is a big part of Jewish tradition, and that I was raised, like one of my earliest memories is my parents taking me to the airport to pick up, unbeknownst to me, because I was a little kid, they were very active in trying to free what was called a refusnik, a Jewish person in the Soviet Union who was not allowed to emigrate and who was in jail because he was Jewish. Because back in the Soviet Union, you really weren't allowed to express being Jewish or support for Israel. And so they had been working with senators and all different agencies to try to free this man, and they actually succeeded, which was very rare.
Yeah.
It wasn't just my parents. They were working with a bunch of other people.
Sure.
I remember going to the airport and to pick up this guy and being like, wow, you can actually affect change by giving a shit and doing something about it.
Wow.
I think I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I really remember it.
Wow. So your parents were pretty active in the faith?
Well, in the faith, but also in the social action aspect of it.
Okay.
So
was that what they did? Like, was that their job?
Well, my dad, you could say he was active in the faith because he was a rabbi.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And my mom was a social worker.
Okay.
So the idea of social action and actively seeking justice, which is a very Jewish concept, was ingrained in me from the beginning of my life.
Okay.
And so when I started hearing reggae, roots reggae.
Yeah. And how did you start hearing it, on the radio or?
My first memory of hearing reggae was on the radio. I remember being with my dad driving somewhere, and he was always listening to different kinds of music. I don't know what station we were listening to. This is the 70s.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Could have been WLIB on 1190 AM or could have been WKCR 89.9 FM.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just remember some reggae coming on, and I remember saying, "Dad, what is that music?" Because I just didn't know it before,
Yeah.
So that was my. I vaguely remember a female singer, but I for the life of me don't remember the song or anything.
Right.
Anyway, so then being in New York, as you know, growing up in New York, you're going to hear all kinds of music.
Sure.
As a young teenager, I started, teaching myself guitar and learning music, and I was in a band, and the older kids, the cool kids seem to like reggae and then two-tone ska, which always kind of leads to reggae.
Right.
So it was just a natural progression, but also the fact that so many roots reggae songs seem to be crying out for social justice, you know, really clicked with me. So I've got the Jewish Rastafari aspect, and then the social, equal rights and justice. You know, the Peter Tosh song.
And you also just kind of dug the music.
Yeah, I dug the music. I mean, I definitely liked reggae enough to write it, produce it, play it, and then start a reggae record label. So,
Yeah, and in those days, it was harder to track down the stuff. You definitely had to seek out the stuff. It's not like now where you can just go on YouTube.
No, of course.
And Roots Reggae 70s and get hours of stuff.
Well, one of my biggest resources for learning new music of all styles as a teenager was my local library.
Okay.
They had an amazing set of all different kinds of records.
Nice.
So I'd take out a couple records every week. There's so many, even just not just artists, styles of music that I'm mad about now that I discovered just from going to the library.
Like what? Besides the reggae?
I think I probably heard my first Fela Anikulapo Kuti from taking out this looks like a cool record,
Right.
And this is, way before anyone gave a shit about Afrobeat, in America, I'm talking the 80s,
Right.
I very specifically remember taking out some book about, it was like a list of like the best different things in music, like the best songwriters of the best. And I didn't even realize this book was from the UK.
Okay.
So I was reading it, and all over this book, these lists of like who are the best, it was all kept talking about the Jam. And I just thought, who are these guys? I never heard of these guys. Right. So then I get like the Jam greatest hits double LP from the library, and I loved it. Yeah. And I became this huge fan of the Jam, which no one in America seemed to know them at all. And still to this day, don't really know them. I saw some, there's actually a film about them that was on Showtime.
Really?
Yeah. It's called About the Young Idea.
Okay.
And I watched it, and it was very touching for me because I loved them so much.
Nice.
But I couldn't even believe that this is being shown in America.
Okay.
And then that led to me, so the Jam had broken up by 1982. I didn't discover them until 1985.
Right.
But then Paul Weller from the Jam went on to form the Style Council. I read about that in the book. So I was like, okay. So I check out the Style Council, and I love that too.
Yeah.
And I also, by that point, I was getting really into R&B. Yeah. And the Style Council was all about soul, R&B.
Sure. Who were your R&B guys?
Oh my God. Too many to count. I mean, I was listening to WBLS and Kiss. Right. I was a big Radiohead.
Okay.
No, I mean, it sounds like a bad pun since I made that Radio Dread album. Yeah. But, I had my little boombox, and at night I would just flip around, and I remember hearing like just obscure, weird hip hop. Yeah. Like in 1982 or 83 on some station low on the dial. I don't even know. And there's like some songs that I still remember to this day that I probably haven't heard in 30 years.
Yeah. I remember the sound of BLS in those days, like from school dances. They would get like the giant speakers.
Yeah.
I mean, first time I heard Rapper's Delight and Jam on It and all those early rap tunes. I also seem to remember having a bus driver for day camp, who was like a Jamaican dude.
Yeah.
He had the radio on in the bus.
Yeah, there you go, man.
And I remember hearing the first time I heard the jinky, 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 first time I heard like the guitar and like the sonic thing of reggae. It was completely foreign to me. That and WBBLL.
Yeah, man.
To this day, I hear that and I'm like,
Yeah, look, one of my
like New York,
Kiss doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
I think the company that owned Kiss bought WBLS and they merged, whatever. And now it's still WBLS, but there's basically only one urban station in New York that isn't a hip hop station.
Right. So is that 107.5?
107.5.
Okay.
WBLS. One of my dreams is to get played on WBLS because it would just mean so much to the teenage me,
Right. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, my parents listened to all different kinds of music, so I was exposed to everything.
You're a teenager. You're playing guitar.
Guitar was my main instrument, but I started a band with two friends of mine that we've been friends since 7th grade. We all went to Hunter College High School together in Manhattan. We went through a series of drummers till we found our main drummer for the rest of high school. But all three of us wanted to play guitar, but we needed a bassist.
Yeah.
So we all took turns playing bass, which was great because then I learned to play bass and think like a bassist.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I became a bass player.
Yeah.
Full time.
It's so crazy because bass is the coolest instrument in the world.
It is.
Why are all these kids like, no, man, I want to play guitar. You play the bass. Like, I think bass is the shit.
It's not the instrument you gravitate toward if you want attention.
Yeah, true. To me, it's just part of it was that I was listening to reggae, R&B, funk, where bass is so important.
Yeah.
But it's like, I will be happy to see some kind of any band that doesn't have guitar. But I don't want to see a band that doesn't have a bass unless the keyboardist is a wicked on the left hand.
I immediately don't trust a band that doesn't. This whole like guitar and drums thing that's been happening the last couple of years. I immediately write it off.
Right,
but okay, so you're playing in bands, and you had like your set band all through high school.
Oh yeah.
And where were you playing at this point?
Well, we played CBGB's a bunch of times, which was
the Monday
pretty
night,
amazing. Well, we did
night showcase thing.
We did a couple of those, and we actually graduated to playing CBGBs on a bill with, a bunch of other bands, but we weren't auditioning, Right. It was amazing. I mean, it's funny too, because this is the mid 80s. Yeah. It's not very far removed from the Talking Heads playing there. Blondie were playing there.
What were you guys called?
We were called the Feds.
Okay.
Not a very great name, but it came about because we used to rehearse at Giant Studios on 14th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue, which is right near the Federation for the Handicapped.
Okay.
And we thought, we're all kind of mentally handicapped in some way. So chose that name. It worked and it was great. So we played at CB's a bunch.
And what did the music sound like? We
were a combination of everything we liked, which was great, which you're not really allowed to do anymore. But, we were well versed in pop, rock, funk, R&B. There was ska, reggae.
Okay.
Even there was a jazz influence. We were not skilled jazz musicians, but I grew up listening to a lot of jazz.
Okay.
And it definitely was somewhere in there. It's what I call music. We played music.
Okay.
And so we played in the Nightingale Bar on, that was 2nd Avenue, or maybe it was 3rd Avenue. Shoot, all these places have been closed for so long. The Lismar Lounge, the Pyramid Club.
I lived above the Pyramid Club for a little while.
Wow, that's a
101 Avenue A, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I lived on the 4th floor of that building for the summer of '99.
So we just played all these cool places that don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We did a lot, the high school dances, battles of the band.
Did you have a following?
Yeah, we had we couldn't have packed Madison Square Garden, but we could pack a small club, So
you would play CB's and the place would be crowded?
Yeah, but not just because of us. It would be because CB's always had like at least 4 bands on the bill, We actually, there was a band from LaGuardia we used to play with a lot called the Mommy Heads.
I remember the Mommy Heads, sure. Yep. Yeah.
Did you know the band The Connotations?
No.
Okay, they were also part of the whole scene. At least a couple of guys went to Hunter, but they were much older. They were like 4 years older than me, and I idolized these guys.
Right.
I mean, one of the reasons I think I started playing music was seeing the leader of the Connotations, Michael Holt. Michael, if you're listening, big ups. He did this, it was like Arts Week at my high school, and he just did this solo thing of singing and playing keyboards in the auditorium. I was just mesmerized, like, wow, I want to make music.
Nice.
So we got to actually finally play on the same bill with them, and that was pretty amazing.
It's interesting how your heroes at that age are could be you're a freshman and your hero could be like a senior.
Yeah.
Some guy 4 years older than you.
I actually, as an aside, I remember another student who was a few years ahead of me at Hunter, Marvin Young, performing at some Arts Week thing, and he went on to be known as Young MC.
Okay.
Yeah, so those were good times.
So was there a goal at this point with the band, or you were just
having fun?
Just having fun.
I mean, we were happy to make a little money, and we were. We played some gigs where we can make like $300, and we were just like, wow, $300 split 4 ways. And,
when you're a teenager, $75 that's a big deal to play music. I mean, you've won the game there.
Yeah. So we were, we would have loved to get a recording contract and put out an album. We had no idea what we were doing. Right. And that was never going to happen. And then,
so when and how did that end?
College.
Okay.
Ruined everything.
Where did you go to college?
We had all. Now, my former bandmates may disagree on this point, but I really thought we had all agreed to stay in New York for college and keep playing.
Okay.
So I applied early decision to Columbia, not even knowing if I'd get in. I did get in.
Okay.
So I went to Columbia, and one of the other guys from the band also did that, but the other two guys moved out of New York, so the band was over.
That was that.
Yeah, but that's life. It's cool.
So what was the next step for you?
Next step was kind of the Feds 2.0, which we called the Freuds. We just added an R and a U. And we figured out we're in college, so...
Same deal, CB's, Nightingales?
Yes, except then also a lot of Columbia parties.
Okay.
There was a club across the street from the campus called the West End Gate that we used to play at very frequently. There was a club called Speakeasy on Sullivan Street we used to play at.
Right.
We actually played the Apollo, which was such an amazing highlight of my career. And I can't believe I didn't think to like, I got to get someone to take pictures. Nothing, this is before anyone gave a crap about, you're not going to post a picture somewhere.
Right.
Just
so how long did that last?
You know what? Sorry, I got to backtrack.
Okay.
The Freuds did not play the Apollo. My next band after the Freuds, we broke up after like a year, was called Special Request.
Okay.
And we started out as basically a reggae / R&B thing.
Okay.
And then after a little while, we dropped the reggae. We figured, let's just focus on one kind of style. So we're like R&B, soul, funk.
So this whole time, you're trying to make it as a musician.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking too hard about it, and I didn't have any backup plan.
Right. Did you have like a straight job during this whole time?
Yeah. I worked at Metropolitan Hospital in East Harlem doing clerical work.
Okay.
I started actually in high school there, and then I worked, helped put myself through college working there. I was working there like basically full time.
Okay.
And taking 15 to 18 credits. Per semester. So I didn't have the typical college experience because I was working all the time.
Yeah. And also in the band.
And the band, rehearsing a couple times a week, gigging a couple times a week. But it's great, So Special Request, actually, that's where I kind of feel like I came into my own as a songwriter, as a musician, as a person in a band. And the drummer from the Freuds, who I recruited at Columbia, was then the drummer for Special Request.
Okay.
And he's still one of my best friends. And the keyboardist, the eventual keyboardist from for Special Request was a friend of mine from the high school days named Victor Axelrod, who was in a band called the Boilers, who then went on to be one of the kind of founding members of Antibalas, who are huge now.
Sure.
And Victor then, I'm jumping ahead, but he played on many of the early Easy Star All Stars recordings with me and co-produced Dub Side of the Moon with me.
Okay.
So anyway, so we had this R&B band, and that I wanted to be my life. We were together for 5 years. We had some great shows. We opened for Average White Band, which was amazing for me.
Yeah.
We opened for Diggable Planets, who were pretty hot back in the early 90s. We had a manager, which was great. I really wanted to make this into something big.
Yeah.
Our two problems: one, we were young and foolish, and two, there was kind of no one doing what we were doing, live R&B in the early to mid 90s. There was on the popular, Mint Condition was popular, and they were a real band.
Right.
And then you had like the brand new heavies out of England, who were more of a funk kind of thing. Record labels didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
And we had great shows with lots of fans who would come to our shows, but
as far as what was on the radio nationwide.
there was no way. So we were going to get on the radio. Now we did get an opportunity of very, very big artist who I'm not sure why, but I feel like should remain nameless.
Sure.
Wanted to sign us to, she had a production company. And she wanted to sign us to this for a very large sum of money, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
But she wanted us to fire our lead singer and replace her with one of her backup singers, or former backup singers. And she also wanted us to do a lot of material written by other people. And, I wrote a lot of our stuff, and I was like, it's abrogating my artistic integrity. So we basically wound up turning down this deal.
Yeah.
Which was, I don't want to live my life based on regrets, but I wish I hadn't done that, because I could have had gained so much experience, made some money, worked with a major artist. I could have learned so much. It would have been great. And ironically, not that long after that fell apart, the band fell apart.
Well, I can't think of any situation that played out the way you just described, where, so we went ahead and fired the lead singer, took all this material that we didn't write, and everything worked out perfectly.
No, of course.
Usually those arrangements don't.
No, I know, but what I've learned is to try to be open to every opportunity.
Sure.
And my mistake was that I wasn't open to it.
Yeah.
Really.
Had you taken the deal, you would have at least gotten the experience.
Yeah, something good would have come out of it. Even though the band might have fallen apart anyway, but it could have been a good learning experience. But I didn't do it. But it's all good. It's a story now.
It is all good because you made the best decision that you knew how to make at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no way that 44-year-old you was going to be involved in that decision because he didn't exist yet.
Oh, you know what? Here, I just remember what I was going to say, which is that, I mentioned before, I was like, I don't want to do this because it would abrogate my artistic integrity. But that is such bullshit because if you want to make a living as a musician, it's work. You do what you need to do to make a living.
If that's the goal, that might not have been your goal at the time.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I have a dozen stories like this. Like I should have done this. I should have done that. I shouldn't have done that or the other.
And I wouldn't do something that would go against my morals. That's a different story. But artistic integrity, what is that? I'm sure I would have been making good music, even if it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. So that just seems like...
Well, you obviously had also this allegiance to the band.
Yeah, I had an allegiance to the band. I had allegiance to the lead singer, even though she and I didn't even get along that great. And that was one of the reasons why the band wound up breaking up. But I still felt like it would have been the wrong thing to do, to boot her out just because so-and-so. Yeah.
Sure. All right. So there you go.
Yeah, no, everything works out.
I'd say you've done all right.
Well, thank you.
So let's jump ahead to that point. So the band ends and Easy Star started in 1996.
Correct.
How did that come to be?
Well, all this time that I was making R&B, I still loved reggae.
Yeah.
And I had 3 friends. I had a lot of friends who loved reggae too, but 3 friends specifically, we would just spend a lot of time listening to reggae together, going to reggae shows, talking about reggae, thinking, man, why isn't there more good reggae coming out of Jamaica now using live musicians, writing about stuff that's important? Because this was the age, and I like dancehall music too, or especially back then. I like dancehall, but it was mostly computerized.
Yeah, that had started to happen. Yeah.
And lyrically, it was often about guns and women and not about issues of social justice. And so it wasn't calling out to me. So we just thought, well, why don't we just do it ourselves?
Wow. And
at that, of the 4 people involved, I was the only one who actually was and is a musician. So
interesting.
I saw this as an opportunity to make some great music, and I wrote, we decided to start the company. Initially, I think we just were trying to find up and coming artists.
Okay.
I would write the music, record all the tracks, and they would contribute lyrics, or sometimes I would actually wind up writing the lyrics as well and the melodies, but sometimes they would contribute that part to the song. Right. We started just putting out some singles. Our first single came out in July 1997.
Wow. And where were you recording at this time?
Our first stuff was recorded at a place called Midnight Music in Williamsburg on Ainsley Street, which now is owned by the same person who owns it, has a studio called Capture Sound in Greenpoint.
All right.
And it's funny. We put an ad in the Village Voice looking for reggae singers. And then we auditioned a bunch of people, and many of them were pretty terrible, but some of them, I think, but actually I can't really remember, but I think some of the people we wound up working with and even work with to this day were because of that. And aside from special request demo recordings, because we never actually recorded anything that was finished and came out.
Right.
This was the first time I was really producing music. Wow. So it was a great learning process for me. So we started this record company, but we also started throwing a party every Tuesday night at a bar called Black Star Bar on 2nd Avenue between 5th and 6th Street.
Okay.
And we early on thought, let's just keep it free. We're not trying to make money from this. Let's just use this as a way to give the New York reggae community a place to chill, listen to music, and it's a promotional tool.
And have bands play?
It wasn't even big enough for bands to play.
Oh,
it was
really?
Just, we just had a DJ. We got...
you were playing your records?
we didn't. At that point we only had one record, so we got.
But it was a way to kind of get to, as they say in politics, energize the base.
Yes, and it worked great because on two levels. One, it energized the base. We had, and there were a lot of problems because the owner of the bar didn't like reggae. Didn't like. He actually. It's ironic. He was from Ghana, but I would say he didn't really like many other black people.
I see.
So,
Interesting.
His bar made quite a bit of money every Tuesday night because of us. But there were problems with people smoking ganja and all that stuff. So it was, but somehow this party lasted like 7 years, every Tuesday night, except for maybe one or two times that for some reason it didn't happen. And it was free, and you'd get people from the East Village who weren't even really into reggae, but that was their local bar, hanging out with Rastas from deep in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Artists would pass through unannounced. I remember one night, Shinehead, who I loved from back in the 80s, came down, and he was on the mic for like a half hour straight, just chatting. And I'm right there next to him watching him. And it's like, this is too cool, because I was a fan.
Sure.
Anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is because another reason this party was great was that the DJ, who was our resident DJ, his name was Vinny, King Crown International, and he used to DJ on WKCR. He knew a lot of people in the New York reggae scene. And so he introduced me to Ansel Cridland from the Meditations. Now, the Meditations, for those of you who don't know, were a very important harmony trio from Jamaica from back in the 70s. And Bob Marley loved them so much that they sang backup on some of his recordings. They were all living in New York. And I somehow got them to record with us.
Nice.
And we did a song with them. And they hadn't even recorded any new material in like 7 years, And then from that, then Ansel introduced me to Sister Carol, another artist who I used to go see perform every time she was in New York. Or performing in New York. She lived in New York. And she wound up recording with us. And then she introduced me to Sluggy Ranks, who then wound up recording with us. And then he introduced us. Sluggy Ranks comes over to my apartment one day with Junior Demas, another artist who I loved because of the single Cabin Stabbin', which was Supercat, Nicodemus, and Junior Demas. It was one of my favorite songs of the early 90s. And Junior Demas is at my apartment. I'm like, hey, man, check out this rhythm. I had this little studio in my bedroom, not even a studio, I had a keyboard,
Right.
And he's like, yeah, man, we chat on that. And he just writes a whole song right there. And then a little while later, we go to the studio and lay it down. And so we recorded enough singles. And they were like, well, we're putting out singles. We're just losing money on it. We were selling them by going, I didn't even have a car. We would take the subway with a box of records up to White Plains Road in the Bronx out to Brooklyn. And, we'd sell the stuff on consignment, and then it would be impossible to get paid on a lot of it.
Right.
And so then we finally put out an album, which we just called Easy Star Volume 1. And I wrote, pretty much almost all the music and some of the songs as well, and various artists. And we got Sugar Minot to sing on it.
Right.
And he sang a song that I wrote, which just blew my mind because I love Sugar Minot.
Yeah.
And we went on to do a lot of stuff with him. And I can't even believe he's dead now because, he was such a big part of my life.
Was there a moment for you, and maybe this is, you'll wind up jumping ahead a little bit into the future, where you thought like, well, we really got something here. Like, did you feel like, was there one defining event that you thought like, aha, this is happening?
I'm going to say there's maybe two, not events, but two general movements that started happening. One was, in 2000, it was either 2000 or 2001.
Okay.
So we had recorded, by this time we had put out a few albums, and we recorded some stuff I recorded a song with Luciano, who was one of my favorite singers, reggae singers. And it started getting played on WLIB, which back then to me was a really big deal. And it was, and I was hearing it like every day on the radio. And I'm like, man, I remember, this happened to be a song that I played all the instruments on. And it was pretty cool. And then I thought, so on a very, very micro level, I was like, we made it,
Right.
I'm on the radio. Jamaicans are listening to something I did. But then after we did Dub Side of the Moon, now we didn't know if Dub Side of the Moon would catch on or not.
Yeah.
I think we did a good job of making it.
Whose idea was that?
That was my partner Lem's idea.
Okay.
He was a big Pink Floyd fan, and he just had this idea, it was early on in Easy Star's history. Maybe we could do a reggae or dub version of it,
Yeah.
So he brought the idea to the rest of us, and I was skeptical at first. I was like, I didn't get into this to do covers of rock music.
Right.
But I did a few demos. I still remember making these demos and writing the rhythms in my little bedroom studio in Chelsea. And we all thought, wow, this kind of works. So
Do you think Lem was looking for something big to kind of like kick the label in the ass a little bit? Or was it just a crazy idea?
I think he knew, and we all knew, that this could be something, because it could be some kind of game changer.
Right. Okay.
So once the album started getting really good reviews and even got featured on All Songs Considered on NPR, and that I remember being at my job and surreptitiously, I knew that the All Songs Considered, or maybe it was even on All Things Considered somehow, I can't remember. I knew that it had aired the night before, or earlier in the day, and I kept watching the iTunes didn't even exist yet. I was watching the Amazon charts, and Dub Side of the Moon got up to number 3 on the Amazon pop charts, like not for reggae.
Okay.
Like I think like Celine Dion and the Dixie Chicks were the only people ahead of us. And I thought, wow. And then when we did our first tour, where we're featuring Dub Side of the Moon, we played the whole album straight through, and as well as other material. Crowds were loving it. And we were playing to packed rooms sometimes, 400 or 500 people. The crowd reaction made me realize, wow, people are feeling this. And then we actually played, this is 2004. We played at Santa Monica Pier. They had some they still have a music series there in the summer, free I don't remember what night of the week it was.
Okay.
And it was the biggest crowd I'd ever seen in my life, And
So you were in the band.
I was touring with the band.
Called the Easy Star All Stars.
Easy Star All Stars.
Okay.
And which was basically me and whoever I put together for studio purposes.
Got it.
But then we developed a more stable touring unit.
Sure.
And so one of the organizers for the Santa Monica Pier thing told me there were 18,000 people there, which blows my mind.
Wow.
And I'm out there, and I don't really put myself out there as a vocalist, but on this tour, I was singing, every night I sang Brain Damage.
Okay.
I remember I'm singing, and I'm seeing, people as far as you can see.
Right.
And I'm just like, I think we might be onto something here.
Yeah. Okay. So Dub Side of the Moon was the game changer, you would say?
Well, definitely. I mean, to this day, people, they mainly care about me as a reggae producer or artist because of Dub Side of the Moon.
Okay.
Next, we did Radio.
Radio Dread. Okay.
Yeah, that was a great challenge because, one, I didn't know anything about Radiohead. I'd never heard them before.
Okay. Now, was this Lem's idea again? Like, let's follow this up with something that's...
No, I mean, we all recognize that we should follow this up with another album of the same idea. A classic album that we could recreate as reggae.
Right.
It took us a long time to figure out what that album would be. And some people were like, yeah, do another Pink Floyd album, but it just seemed too much of a cop-out. And once I listened to OK Computer, I was like, oh my God, this is so complicated. What are we thinking? But again, I made a few demos. I thought, I guess it could work. And it was such a great challenge because, so for Dub Side of the Moon, when we did Money, I think when we did Money, we might have done the very first reggae song not in 4. Right. Not in 4 at all. Right. So not even just, but yeah, 7/4,
Right.
OK Computer by Radiohead has 12 songs on it, and 7 of the 12 songs are either not in 4 or switch between different time signatures.
Wow.
Like sometimes every few bars.
Okay.
It's an amazing challenge, but I somehow figured out how to do it, and it was really gratifying. And then Radiohead themselves really loved it, which was pretty cool.
Make sure
What was the reaction to Dubside from Floyd, or was there one?
Roger Waters sent us a fax, because this was 2003, saying, like, thank you for sending. It's my policy not to comment on covers of my work.
Okay.
So, okay. They get that.
Sure.
David Gilmour, he didn't reach out to us personally, but we got word, I guess maybe our publicist in the UK heard him on the radio, and the host asked him about Dubside of the Moon. And he's like, oh, it's great fun. I wish I'd seen them when they were just in London. I was like, oh, yeah, we wish you'd seen us too.
There you go.
And Claire Torrey, who sang Great Gig in the Sky, is a big fan of ours and comes to our shows in England whenever she can. And,
nice.
And it's cool. And I have heard that Alan Parsons is a fan.
He was using, I don't know if I told you this, we were using it as walk-in music.
Yeah, and that blows my mind.
At the shows.
As a producer and an engineer, that's like the biggest compliment.
Yeah, yeah. And then the Pepper one. I was playing at BB King's with some sort of a Beatles-themed thing. Sure. I forget what it was. And Elena... was the keyboard player, was working at BB's at the time. She goes, oh, you guys are Beatles? I'm doing this reggae Beatles thing. And she gave me a sticker with the bass drum head thing. So I knew that the album existed. Like a reggae version of Sgt. Pepper, that sounds interesting. And then I stumbled upon it in a CD store on a day off on the tour. I was like, and I grabbed it. It became like my favorite.
Wow,
thing.
Thanks, man.
Like faithful to the original, to the spirit of the original, and it didn't sound like it was just like appropriation. I mean, it was like the authentic shit, which brings me to the question of, I know in the reggae community, the tradition and the legacy is very important to people. Yeah,
sure.
Do you feel a certain responsibility?
Definitely.
To stay true to the legacy of this music and
definitely,
to keep it authentic?
For several reasons. One is I have so much admiration for the artists and producers and songwriters who came before me making reggae. Okay. So I kind of owe it to them to try to make good music. Yeah. I owe it to myself. I don't want to make music that I don't want to listen to. Right. And it's also more just about, related to that, I kind of gravitate, I like to listen to reggae from like the late 70s to the early 80s. That's just my stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of what comes out when I make reggae. I'm not a purist. I'm not like, it has to sound like it was recorded at King Tubby's. And not, I really don't care. I just want to sound good, but it just, because that's my main reggae influence, that's what my stuff comes out sounding like. And I don't want to listen to reggae made by, you don't have to be a Jamaican to make reggae. I hope that's true. I mean, enough Jamaican artists have worked with me who I think respect me. Right. I don't have a lot of patience for the non-Jamaicans who put on the fake patois and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure I'm offending some people right now by saying that, because there are reggae artists who that's what they do, Right. But it just doesn't sound authentic to me. And it's not about it has to sound, it just doesn't feel true to me. Like I am not a Rastafarian, and I have a lot of respect for my Rasta brothers and sisters. And I actually have had great talks with some of these reggae artists I work with because we talk about the Bible and stuff like that, because I can bring my Jewish perspective. They bring the Rasta perspective. But I'm never going to be one of those guys, or never have been one of those guys at a reggae show who shouts out, Jah Rastafari, because I don't, that's not my belief system, Right. So it's about being true to yourself.
True to yourself too.
And if you're true to yourself, then whatever music you make should be true. Yeah. Whether people like it or not, it should be true. Okay. When we started out, we only pretty much wanted to work with Jamaican artists. And now a majority of the artists we work with are not Jamaican. They're US based or UK based, because that's the reality of reggae today. Who is selling records and putting asses in the seats? It's these US reggae bands, Like who? Like John Brown's Body? John Brown's Body, but to a greater degree, Revolution is probably the most successful, and I've done a lot of great work with them. And The Green, they're based in Hawaii. Easy Stars put out their last couple albums. If you look at the Billboard reggae charts, they're pretty much dominated by U.S.-based bands now.
Are Jamaicans still making reggae, though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still making it. And I think only somewhat recently has the conversation been meaningful about how can Jamaicans take back their rightful place in reggae. A lot of people in the Jamaican music industry, I think, are thinking, okay, this seems to be the new reality. U.S. groups are dominating the charts and are much more able to tour. So what can we do about it now? You know,
okay. And what are they doing about it, or have they started yet?
Well, I think there's definitely Jamaican artists that are looking at what these bands are doing. Oh, you know, maybe you got to tour a lot more, even though you're not making money. A lot of artists have historically come up in Jamaica thinking, I'm only going to take the big gigs, the big money gigs.
Yeah.
You know, you can do that in places where there are Jamaican communities, you know, New York, Miami, whatever.
Right.
But, you know, if you really want to get meaningful success, you might have to get in a van with a bunch of your brethren and tour and not make a lot of money and build up a fan base. You know, like the Dave Matthews Band started out playing probably to 10 people a night.
So you're talking about like up-and-coming artists now.
Up-and-coming artists need to do that. The veterans, a lot of them have realized the power of the U.S. reggae scene and are maybe like, you know, doing a song with a U.S. band or trying to do shows with them.
So they have to all think outside the box too.
Yeah, they not have to, but they should to make their careers more relevant to today's music industry. Yeah, and also, you know, the embrace of social media that can be a great equalizer. And you know, you can't. I don't want to say you can't, but it seems pretty tough to have a successful music career without embracing social media these days. Yeah. You know, I would love to see a lot of these veteran artists who still have so much to give artistically. Yeah. I'd love to see them be more successful, you know? Mm-hmm. And look, in Europe, there's more of an appreciation for the veteran reggae artists. And so at least during the summer touring, the festival season, a lot of them are making some decent bread. But, you know, I know a lot of reggae veterans that are really struggling economically, and it just sucks, you know?
Radio 418.
You best take a laxative. I ain't got much time to give. If you wanna love to live, you better should get off the pot. You best take a laxative. I ain't got much time to give. If you wanna love to live, you better should get off the pot. You keep telling me that you want to be my man. I still don't see no ring up on my hand. I've given you the best of me.
I just wanted to tell you about the name of my project because to me it's just funny, and if you don't think it's funny, you edit it out. Which is that, okay, so my last name is Goldwasser. Right. And all my life, people get it wrong. People call me Goldwater, Goldwasser, Wasserman, or some people just look at it and say, oh, Jew. They call me Goldberg or Goldstein. Yeah. So anyway, I'm on hold with my credit card company a couple of years ago. And the woman comes back from being on hold. She said, thank you for waiting, Mr. Goldswagger. And I just thought, that's going to be the name of my next project. That's it. And boom, there it is.
That's great.
And it's funny, too, because I'm not a swaggery kind of guy. You know, I'm a homebody. I'm happy to just be home with my wife and kids. And I'm not out there like big pimping. But
I just assumed it was a play on your name, but I'm glad that it was the credit card company that gave it to you.
One of my songs called I Can't Wait. It's a soul ballad and sung by Maya Azucena, who you went to high school with. Yeah. I sent a copy because I'm just trying to think like a youngster and just try everything. Right. I sent a copy to Felix Hernandez, who's a DJ on WBGO 88.3. Yeah, sure. He has a show on Saturdays called The Rhythm Review. And he just picked I Can't Wait and started playing it on his show every week.
Get out of here.
And I was getting tons of Facebook messages from people who heard it on Felix's show saying, where can I get this? And so I actually wound up releasing it as a single because I was getting all this interest.
Well, that's great.
my point is, I know there's an audience for what I do, which is great. So I now just got to find a better way to get to them. I don't have the money to do a radio promotions campaign that's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. So I'm just doing it myself. But, see what happens. But even though it's difficult, it's been kind of fun to put aside the fact that I own a record label that people like, but it's a different genre. My solo project is R&B and funk and soul.
Okay.
So I'm kind of starting from scratch in a lot of ways. And having to work as if I'm in my 20s, you know, to make this happen. I don't know if it will ultimately succeed at the level that I want it to. Okay. But it's been...
What's the level that you'd like to see it succeed at?
Oh, I want to have my song played on WBLS. Okay. I want to sell music and make... I would love to make a lot of money from this great music that I made and bring...
So the same stuff that we all want. You want it to work.
I don't enjoy the living on the edge aspect of making music. Okay. I think stability would be a wonderful thing, and or even the wealth. Whoa, what's that? Right. I don't feel like it's my obligation to reggae or to music to keep toiling for almost no money forever. Right. As crazy as that may sound, what? I wouldn't mind, so if someone came along and said, I want you to do this and I'm going to pay you a real salary, and, I consider it, I know that's very un-rock and roll of me to say, but,
but what does that mean anymore though? When the goal of most young bands is to get songs placed in movies and TV shows and commercials. Right. Well, I appreciate your time.
Oh, it's been fun, man. Thank you.
I'm really glad to get to the center of Easy Star, man. I've been a fan of your stuff for a long time, and I can't wait to start getting more of these releases.
Thank you. I love the music, and I've had a great time. So, and I'm honored for you to even consider me for this podcast. I know you've interviewed a lot of or had conversations with a lot of icons, so.
Yeah. I would consider you in that class. There's nobody else doing what you're doing.
Yeah. But that in $2.75 will get you on the subway.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm just, I don't want to end this on a sad note. Look, the thing about music that is great, and I'm saying this in all sincerity, is that no matter what the economics of it are, I know that music that I have made, so whether it's in the studio or even performing live, brings joy to people and enriches their lives. And it's very meaningful to me. And just, as being a musician, you're on stage, you play a note, and within a second or less than a second, it's affecting people and usually making them feel really good.
That's right.
And people in a lot of other professions can't necessarily say that. So I think it's just, an intrinsic value to what we do. And I'm very thankful to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So.
Right on.
Rock and roll.
That's it.
Radio 418.
Michael Goldwasser. Go to goldswaggermusic.com to find out everything you need to know about his project. What a tremendous guy. I love talking to that guy, and his heart's in the right place. And by the way, that's my friend Maya Azucena. Shout out to LaGuardia class of 1990. Singing with him on that. Goldswaggermusic.com. He's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, all of the socials. So check it out. The website for the podcast is radio418.com. You can subscribe there if you create a Podbean account, or you can subscribe on iTunes. Stream it, download it, whatever you want to do. Just keep checking us out. We're also posting the new episodes on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/John Montagna Music. Follow me on Twitter at JohnMon, JONMON. Instagram is John Montagna. The Facebook page is facebook.com/radio418. But anything and everything you want to know about me and what I'm doing with my music, my tour dates, my show dates, my blog, it's all at my website, johnmontagna.com. Listen to music, listen to music, listen to music. It's good for your soul, it's good for your heart. Do it. If you're too busy to listen to music, you're just too busy. Give more love. Thank you for listening to Radio 418. I will see you on the next one. Be well.